Nobody expected Ford to do this. Not like this. Not with a name this sacred, wearing a shape this outrageous, sitting this low on the pavement like it's daring the entire industry to say something. I'm with Premium Automotive Reviews, and we spend our time here looking past marketing decks and spec sheets, trying to understand what a car actually means before we ever talk about what it does. And this one means something complicated. Because buried inside this build is a drivetrain decision that Ford's own engineering team reportedly argued about for months. A choice that either honors everything the Model T represents or completely betrays it. Depending on who you ask inside Dearborn. We'll get there. First, you need to understand what you're looking at, because at first glance, this doesn't look like a modern Ford at all. It looks like something that crawled out of 1927 and got rebuilt by people who understood physics 100 years better. The cabin sits impossibly high and narrow above a body that's been stretched, widened, and slammed toward the earth, and that contrast is not an accident. It's the entire philosophy of this car in one silhouette. The upright greenhouse, the rounded fenders, the vertical proportions up top all whisper heritage. Everything below the beltline screams performance. Ford's design language team reportedly called this internally the two eras concept, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The fascia carries a deep, mesh-textured grille flanked by teardrop headlight housings that reference the round lamps of the original Model T, while functioning as fully adaptive LED matrix units underneath. The front splitter is aggressive carbon fiber, low enough to scrape a parking curb, wide enough to generate real front-end downforce at speed. The wheel arches bulge out dramatically over staggered forged wheels, and the stance alone tells you this thing was never built to idle in a museum. It was built to be driven hard, then parked somewhere people will stop and stare. Around back, quad exhaust outlets punch through a sculpted diffuser, and the taillights glow in deep, rounded red, a quiet nod to the round lamps of a century ago, reinterpreted in a shape that belongs on something with real muscle underneath it. The badge sits proud, unbothered, because it doesn't need to shout. Everything around it already is. Now for the part that actually made engineers argue. Ford reportedly explored an electrified path for this build early in development, chasing instant torque and a lighter chassis. They walked away from it. The internal reasoning, according to people close to the project, was simple. A Model T without an internal combustion heartbeat isn't a Model T at all, it's a costume. So instead, the estimated architecture centers on a supercharged V8, targeted somewhere in the 850 to 900 horsepower range, paired with a torque curve engineered to hit hard low and pull cleanly through the top of the rev range, rather than spiking and fading. It's a controversial call in an era chasing electrification. And it's exactly the kind of decision that will split opinion the moment this thing goes public. Start it, and there's a beat of silence before the ignition catches, almost theatrical, like the car is gathering itself. Then the supercharger whine layers in underneath a deep, chesty exhaust note that settles into an idle with real weight behind it. Not a polite hum, but a low physical presence you feel through the floor. Roll into the throttle, and the tone sharpens immediately. The blower whistle rising above a bark that gets rawer and angrier the deeper you push. Gear shifts land with a mechanical snap, quick and deliberate, each one punctuated by a crack from the quad exhaust that makes passengers flinch the first time. Yet step back inside and close the door, and the cabin goes remarkably quiet. Triple-layer glazing and dense acoustic insulation strip away the wind and road noise, so the engine becomes something you choose to hear rather than something you're forced to endure. At high RPM, it turns genuinely feral, a supercharged howl that feels less like a machine working and more like something being unleashed. Pull the door handle, and it responds with real resistance, a mechanical click that feels engineered rather than assumed. Drop into the seat and you're set low, snug, thighs supported properly. The wheel adjustable enough to find a position that feels tailored rather than generic. Hand-stitched leather runs across the dash and doors, warm and slightly textured, with brushed metal accents catching light instead of reflecting it flatly. There's a faint scent of leather and something subtly mineral, like warm machinery, that never becomes overpowering. Ambient lighting traces the cabin in a soft amber glow after dark, deliberately reminiscent of old dashboard illumination, rather than the cold blue-white of most modern interiors. The main touchscreen is angled toward the driver, integrated cleanly rather than bolted on, and a secondary display behind the wheel handles instrumentation with clean, legible dials that still nod to analog gauge design. Everything closes with a density that suggests real engineering underneath the surface, not just a styling exercise wrapped around a parts bin. The technology inside stays out of your way until you need it. Adaptive driver assistance monitors following distance and lane position without nagging. Over-the-air updates keep the car improving after it leaves the dealership, and the connectivity suite links your phone in seconds without demanding attention. None of it feels like software fighting for control. It feels like a quiet co-pilot that steps in only when it genuinely helps. Move off the line for the first time, and the immediate sensation is how planted everything feels despite the aggressive proportions. Steering is direct and nicely weighted, communicating road texture without transmitting every imperfection into your palms. Throttle response is sharp but never nervous, the supercharger filling in torque instantly, rather than making you wait for boost. Brakes bite with confidence and progressive feel, never grabby, always predictable. The suspension, tuned with adaptive dampers, manages a genuinely difficult job here, keeping a wide, heavy-feeling chassis composed through direction changes, while still absorbing rougher pavement without punishing your spine. There's real chassis balance in fast corners, the rear staying planted under power, rather than stepping out unpredictably. It's not a soft car, and it shouldn't be. But it's not brutal either, and long stretches on rougher American backroads confirm this thing has been engineered for real-world driving, not just closed-course theater. Ford's projected pricing for a build like this reportedly lands somewhere in the mid to high six-figure range, once you account for the custom bodywork, forged wheel package, and interior craftsmanship involved. That's a real number, and it demands an honest question. Is it worth it? The answer isn't really about horsepower per dollar. It's about what you're actually paying for, which is a piece of automotive history rebuilt with modern engineering conviction, a rolling argument that heritage and performance don't have to compromise each other, and a level of hand craftsmanship that mass production simply can't replicate. For the right buyer, that's not overpriced. That's the entire point. This isn't a segment disruptor chasing lap times, and it isn't a flagship luxury statement either. This is a legacy revival with genuine teeth, a machine with no true direct competitor because nobody else is brave enough to reimagine their own founding nameplate this aggressively. It's a rolling contradiction that somehow makes perfect sense once you're behind the wheel. The person this car was built for isn't chasing status, they're chasing meaning. They understand engineering as craft, not just output numbers. They want a machine that connects them to where the automobile actually came from, while still delivering the visceral, physical thrill that modern performance culture demands. They're the type who reads the history before they buy the car, who wants their ownership experience to feel earned rather than simply purchased. It isn't without compromise. That low, wide stance and stiffened chassis tuning mean rear visibility is genuinely limited. And this isn't the car for daily grocery runs through tight parking structures. Ford made a deliberate trade here, prioritizing presence and performance over everyday convenience. And that honesty matters more than pretending this thing does everything perfectly. Picture this on an empty desert highway at first light. Heat still hours away, the horizon flat and endless. That supercharged V8 echoing off nothing but open sky. That's where this car makes sense. That's where it stops being a curiosity and becomes something closer to a statement. Before we wrap up, I want to know where you land on something genuinely debatable. Ford reportedly walked away from an electrified version of this build to keep the V8 heartbeat intact. Was that the right call, honoring heritage over efficiency? Or is it a missed opportunity in an era that's clearly moving forward? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more honest, in-depth breakdowns like this one, stick around and subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews. This is a machine that refuses to choose between where the automobile began and where it's still going. All specifications, pricing, and features discussed here are based on industry insight, engineering trends, and unofficial projections, and should be treated as estimated rather than confirmed. Details are subject to change and have not been officially verified by the manufacturer at the time of this report. This content reflects informed speculation intended for enthusiast discussion rather than factual production confirmation.